My name is Ahmad. I'm the director of Startup Grind. And at every edition, we're going to bring one entrepreneurs. We're just going to go through the history of how they started and who they are. And then we dig deeper into the whole topic of the entrepreneur. And I'm very happy that this time we have Mathias, a super interesting guy, super intelligent. I'm not sure if he's more intelligent than the AI that he is developing, but like we will just hopefully get to know it very soon. So hi, Mathias.
Hi.
So thank you very much for giving us your time. We're going to hopefully have something around like 15 minutes or so to go through all of the journey. AI is so fascinating, and your journey is also as interesting. So hopefully we're gonna have a lot of different topics to discuss. And then also, if people would have questions, we're gonna have them on the separate channel, and we're gonna ask you the questions, and then we can just go through that. I also love the fact you started with your branding already. So can you just start like where your journey started? Because I'm sure you have a very interesting childhood.
I've always been very obsessed by technology and computers and innovation overall. So I guess I started with computers as a quite early age. Basically, I remember when I was little, I was watching this, I don't know what it's called, like teletext or something, like computer ads. At that point, I didn't have a computer myself, so I was hanging out with my friends a lot at the time. Later on, I got my own computer, and that was.
What was your first computer?
The first computer, the first one was, you called it like 386, and then you had
386. Okay.
Yeah, and then but the first real one I think was some Pentium 2 400 megahertz, 8 gig hard drive.
Those were massive hard drives for people who also remember those times. Really good. But to be honest, because we were also talking before, and you were talking about the fact that even for you, entrepreneur, even started before computer, you were saying that you were doing some really funny things to basically make some money for yourself. So you can also talk about that part if you want.
At an early age, like, of course, I did stuff that most people do. You sell something from school, and Sweden, we have something called the Mayflowers we sell, and the money goes to charity. But I was also doing a couple of my own ventures. One of the more successful was digging up worms for fishermen. So yeah, I dig them up for them and sold it to them. And many other different small things when I was younger. Yeah.
So you're from which part of Sweden, if I can ask?
I am from a place in middle of nowhere that is about 2 hours north of Stockholm. Basically, the village outside the small industry city, so to say. So I think that the bigger industry city, then it have 10,000 people, so it's really small, and the one after the smaller village, maybe 2,000, and where I come from, not much at all. It was so little people there, actually. So in my age group in school, we were only boys, six boys. The year below us was 7 girls just. So.
Okay, but how did you start to become more interested in technology in such a small city, and as you say, in the middle of nowhere?
No, I always had a passion, or maybe a talent for it, to think both logic and creative, so to say. So for me, it's, I wouldn't say any of this side are really dominant. more able to combine them both.
Okay.
So I remember, building after some instructions on parts though, but at very young age, maybe 7, 8 years old, building some, I don't know if it's called FM radio, but
Yeah.
on a radio that could pick up some Spanish channels and other stuff
Yeah.
around the globe. Yeah.
I can say I'm also, I think now that some time passes, I can even say the whole truth that we will also buy these kits and then we will make this FM radio. Well, what we were doing is that we were putting it into different rooms in the classes and everything. And then we will put it on the normal radios that we had this big. And then we would listen to people in the other classes on that time. So,
Wow.
and back in the time of technology, nobody would even suggest that, like there is these things happening because there was no mobile and there was no technology. So I totally remember, like putting these FM radios was, it was as interesting as right now you want to talk about AI and all the, mind-boggling technologies. But you started as an entrepreneur, like as a corporate person. So you started working in different companies. How did that happen?
Yeah, so basically, like I told you, I'm coming from this like really really small place. It's like acres,
Yeah.
like a gravel road, pretty much. However, in Sweden, it was Sweden took a decision back in the time to really support technology and innovation within this area. So pretty much it was decided that everyone in Sweden should have access to a computer, everyone should have access to fast internet.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if the term is broadband on English, but
Exactly. Yeah.
that was the connection. However, where I lived, of course, wasn't maybe the first destination to roll this out. So
Yeah.
no, my first real job I took at 16 years old. It was a evening sales job, and basically my purpose with this was to earn enough money so I could move to an apartment in another city where I could get good internet.
Okay.
I think the age limit to actually start at this company was like 17 or 18 or something, but somehow my mother talked with them and I got this job. So yeah, basically every day after school we were there selling over phones to people. I think it was a lot easier back then than it is now.
Mhm.
People are probably pretty tired of getting different calls.
Yeah, there was a time that having a phone call was not as strange as nowadays. So
Yeah,
phones really was for calling people, but for many reasons, these things have a different terminologies nowadays. But
yeah,
when did
and
you start coding?
yeah. So no, I always been deeply into to computers, but however, I was did pretty good in sales. So for quite some years, I was in different sales positions.
Hmm.
In Sweden, you have a mandatory military service.
Hmm.
Or you can talk your way out of it. I remember going there, you need to fill this document. So I filled out pretty much the Swedish version of Navy SEALs, but I couldn't see it on it, so I tried to
Okay.
remove it from the paper. So in the interview the day after, they were like, "Why did you do this?" But I ended up somehow getting the longest possible time you can do it anyway. But it was good. It was like a company officer education, so interesting from some leader perspectives and so on. But then after that, I continued my journey in sales, so to say. So scaled up and was working with B2B sales in corporate business solutions for what was a big company in Sweden was called a phone house, but it originally comes from UK, I believe, and it's called Our Phone Warehouse. Until I one day got a reward got the highest reward at this company, and then I believe I quit.
So you just waited for the award to quit the company?
Yeah, you get the confirmations. Then there were not anything left really to hunt. Yeah.
So were you coding at that time?
Yeah, I was doing some coding and generally, you know, even then spending countless of hours every day at the computer. But I would be honest to say that a big part of it was playing various computer games also. I got really into the tech world around 2010. That's when I switched to go full time into building my own type of companies.
Okay. What was the first attempt? Where?
Yeah, so basically this goes back even during my time in the army. So at this time, poker was very big in the world, and especially in Sweden, and a lot of the gaming companies come from Sweden. Yeah, I guess nowadays there are quite some other actors on the market, but for a long time, 90% maybe was Swedish-based companies based on Malta. So we also had a lot of great poker players in Sweden. So during the army time, I actually had one of these really good players in my platoon. So already there, I cut some deals with some of these poker companies and said, if I take this guy to you, I will get a cut. Then I want like 60% of what you earn on him. But then on the other hand, I go to this guy and say, if you go there and play, you will get of the money they actually take, because on every hand they take something called rake. So you have something called rake back, get back. So pretty much gave him 50% and kept 10% myself. So yeah, I think it was October 2010 I decided to start this website. It was called Casino Placard. Nowadays I would never work with gambling or anything like that, I can state, but I did at the time. Yeah, I pretty much hired another guy I met from the army to do some development for it, but yeah, wanted to change some stuff, and that was kind of how it started. And then we started to learn some about search engine optimizing, because now we needed to get people in here. But from that point, it went pretty fast. Like I said, I have a thing for looking at input output and understanding what's in between there. So yeah, 3-4 months later, we had solved some of the bigger parameters in Google, among other things, how the Google Sandbox was working. So yeah, about let's say a year in, we were one of Europe's biggest affiliate sites within this niche, and was sending thousands of players every month to our partners.
Wow. And was it still in Sweden?
If I was in Sweden?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so what brought you to Poland? Because, a lot of people are trying to go to Nordic countries and, like the Scandinavians, just to find technology, and you find yourself in Poland.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, after having good success with this site, I got a call on a Saturday, actually, some lawyers who wanted me to meet some investors that coming Monday. so yeah, I went there and met with them because they heard a bit about what I did, especially around search engine optimizing, etc. So with that, I decided to start search engine optimizing and paid media company called that was called Greenbox Media, where we did work with. It did do really well. We pretty soon got ranked by top SEOs as one of the best companies in Sweden. I would say we were among maybe the best in the world because we developed systems that could write like this perfect text on Swedish that it looked like people wrote it. No magic really behind it, but we sorted that out. And it did go really well, and I started a couple of other companies also. But I felt that if I now have a talent for this and have managed to do these things, do I want to stay or do I want to go and hunt something bigger? And kind of there somewhere I decided to just take a break from everything in Sweden. I pretty much put all those companies down or sold them off, and decided that maybe I go to Asia or so for a while. However, I ended up going to Warsaw for a weekend because a good friend of mine in Sweden had a Polish father. And I realized that Warsaw is a pretty interesting place, and especially a lot of things is happening here. Looking back now, it was probably a very good decision, and I believe Warsaw and Poland overall is one of the places, if not the place in the world where things really is happening right now.
Yeah, especially if you are into gaming.
Yeah, gaming is really hot here. I am engaged in one company, but not through Nextgrid, but through my other company, Ingrid, in a gaming company that we will do something with her.
Yeah, we definitely will talk about it. But talking about chicken and egg. So where did everything get started? Like, and also, by the way, what is with the grid? So why one of them is Ingrid and the other one is the Nextgrid?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's playing with words a little. I will tell you. I shouldn't tell this because it has zero benefit for me, but. The name Ingrid comes actually from there were back in the days a to-do app that had a very nice UX. It was called Astrid that Google later ended up buying. So at one point, me and a friend of mine, Joel, was going to make a map of all the VC companies or startups. We got a gig from a VC, and we're talking about the name, and we ended up with Ingrid 360, I think. He was of course thinking in the grid because we were doing a grid. I was more thinking like Astrid, Ingrid, like that. We didn't got the name like Ingrid Bergman. So it comes from there actually, and then when I started the first business here in Poland, I needed to come up with a name. So I just asked my friend, "Is it okay if I use this name we had for the Swedish project?" And we did, and but it's pretty suitable. It's like in the grid, like what's happening right now. And then when we started Nextgrid, this was a bit of playing with words, like the grid, the upcoming grid, the next grid.
So what is Ingrid doing right now?
So basically, when I left Sweden, then I decided that I wanted to learn like all the segments within tech first of all. So basically everything from front end optimization to automatically scalable server clusters with Kubernetes or Docker and so on. And then I needed to learn, because my belief was, I would say, since around 2013, because I managed to achieve quite some stuff and build some things that was kind of best in the world on what it was doing. And personally, I think there is no science to my job. It's just like a grind, like grinding. You see something work and you build on that, which is the same way the AI works. So yeah, pretty much moved here, and then I stopped working with everything and spent a couple of years learning all these segments that I was still missing. And then I needed to figure out how to invest technology. So that's when we started Ingrid. And I believe it was maybe three years ago, 3.5.
Mm-hmm. So first it was Ingrid, then Nextgrid, or the other way around?
Yeah, exactly. But the focus was all the time on AI. However, the ecosystem wasn't mature enough. You still needed a solid 7 years of math behind you to even write the formula, so to say.
Yeah.
Wait, I will just close this thing.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
No.
Maybe in the future we have to allow it to be controlled by AI, but you know.
Yeah.
Because you know, even it makes sense somehow that the Nextgrid would come after Ingrid. That's why I ask, you know.
Yeah.
First you have the Ingrid, and then you have the Nextgrid.
Yeah. So the case was like this. So we start out with Ingrid. You know, coming from nowhere, you're in a new country, you don't really know anyone, you have no connections. Plus, we wanted. It was important to follow our own beliefs. So therefore, we didn't take on any type of capital or anything like that. So what we needed to do was more look like what do we have around us and who want to work with us. I was quite fortunate. Like the first thing we did was a good friend of mine had application in Sweden for driving license. It's like the best selling one in App Store, and they make huge amount of money on it. So we ended up actually launching that one here, and pretty soon it was some days the best selling app in App Store here, but often within top 3 best selling paid apps. However, the market was a bit weaker. So while they were doing 100,000 euros a month on this, I was doing 2,000 zloty here, so it was a big. I think the market have become much stronger now. But we basically the investments then was people I didn't know or did know about my history and what I have done. So we put in a lot of knowledge, a lot of sweat equity into these companies, and pretty much slowly learning the process of investing in companies. And yeah, it's not easy. It's absolutely the toughest thing I have done, and also the feedback loop is very long, so you don't know you fucked up with something until like 2 years down the line when you realize maybe I shouldn't have been writing this contract myself. So, but extremely valuable time of learning stuff and just doing all the mistakes and just like hitting the head against the wall over and over again. And then last year in May, I believe the ecosystem around AI started to reach a point where it was actually manageable. For people who didn't study math 7 years prior. So at that point, we decided to start working on Nextgrid, or at least connecting people to it. A lot of the stuff we learned in Ingrid, of course, we took with us, but what we really wanted to do was to create an investment company that really support technical founders building on modern AI, so to say.
Okay. Is that a part of the hackathon, or this is?
Yeah, so we created this 3-month program. As we are still running on our own resources, so we needed to figure out a way to make this really attractive without investing capital necessarily. So we spent a lot of time to figuring out how to do this really attractive for talented people and awesome companies. But then the question was, okay, how can we build? Now we need to show that we exist. So then we started something called Deep Learning Labs, which is a recurring event happening 1 to 2 times a month. And pretty much our setup was that, okay, let's just gather people together on Saturday for say 6 hours, make it a little bit of a competition, make it a little bit fun, have Red Bull coming and give the participants Red Bull. But it turned out great, and people really loved it. And yeah, just a couple of events down the line, we did see like 50, 60 people coming to these events, and I would say 80% of them are like data scientists or above. And yeah, for the first round we did in the program, actually all of the businesses came from Deep Learning Labs. So just on a couple of events here in Warsaw, we managed to create companies that today are valued at 15 million euro. So yeah, that's really amazing.
I also have to mention that again, you did the same thing, because when you say DLL, for people who are older in the computer, then you also basically tap into another name that everybody knows, right?
Yeah.
So it was the dynamic link library, right? So if I'm not making mistakes, the DLL files is like, everybody knows them. So again, like some somehow familiar names, but this time maybe under a different idea. How can a company just get that much valuation in such a short time? Like, what do they do?
No, I mean, first of all, they are building on modern AI technology, which is extremely powerful. And second of all, it's not. This doesn't really matter, but in this case, all of the founders had a pretty impressive education and history. So, for example, one of our companies, Mlot, Philippe, he's from France. How he ended up on our event here in Warsaw, I don't really know, but anyway, I mean, this guy have a PhD in GANs, which is a very powerful AI technology. He worked under some of the top professors in France building NASA space probes, pretty much. And now he created a system for options, momentum trading, so to say. And the other company, Syndic AI, actually solving a big bottleneck in the AI ecosystem. Because once you build the AI model, you also need to integrate it. So what Marcin from Syndic AI did was to create a type of service where you pretty much drag and drop your model. Magic.
Like an API system.
Yeah, so you just get the API out, and you can use it in any type of environment, because
Wow.
hosting and running the models is that's a mission itself.
Good.
Built it, yeah.
Let's just say we're almost halfway, and we just, we keep talking about AI and everything, but I'm going to ask one question in two different ways and just answer it in the way you want it. So what is AI or what is not AI? Or you can answer both of them.
So what AI is, it's not, I understand many people, they hear about AI could think it's something maybe bad, or that it will take over or anything like that. But what AI actually just is, it's just a way where we allow the computer to actually use its resources to solve a task. Because today we are not really utilizing the computing power we have. It does something, and then it's us in there, like clicking some keys for the next thing.
Yeah.
So basically, what AI allows us to do is to solve different tasks, either by identifying a pattern or simply by testing it in 360 degrees. So basically testing every possible way to do it. Computers are still extremely stupid, I would say. There's nothing intelligent with it, and I do not think we will have any type of general AI in many years. However, it will have a great impact on how we are doing things, and those technologies are already existing. So I think the upcoming 3 years, we are going to see a huge change in many areas.
Where do you think is the best place to basically design an AI?
In what area, or how do you mean?
Because from my point of view, the most interesting AIs I saw were mainly in the financial sector, for example, for calculating the prices of stocks.
Okay.
But also, you can have it in predicting the weather. You can have them with autonomous cars. So, the usabilities, there are, so many different ways. But...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that area is huge, actually, where it can be applied. But some of the interesting things I've seen lately, that I see that, okay, this will have a direct impact, is, for example, we have, it's a little tricky name, PIF-UHD, so it's pixel align implicit function for high resolution. So pretty much this was developed by Facebook. So for example, this model, you can show just the image of a person. It will create a 3D model of it. So normally this would take quite some time. You need the 3D artist, you need to use some of these programs, Maya, Cinema 4D, or maybe Unity, and for anyone who tried this knows that it's Photoshop multiplied with 100 in and last week, actually, another model was released that now can take moving video and make it into moving 3D. So that is something really interesting for the gaming industry here also, I would say, because now we have a way to really speed up development of various scenes in games and characters. So a lot of these groundwork can be done.
Is this the same what they did in Mandalorian?
I don't know, to be honest.
Because in the Mandalorian, they didn't record it in anywhere public. The whole studio was totally some artificial screens. And then there was a technology that by the movement of the camera, the background would change as if it's a real natural move behind it. And everything was basically being instantly calculated by the, the system behind it. To be honest, also not to like make our conversation sometimes too serious, I put something on the chat, and that's basically, I don't know if you can see that, but it's a very funny let's just say representation of how much some people feel something that is complicated can be simple. So it's just basically just showing the guy who takes the ticket from one side and just pass it to the other, while everybody thinks such a complicated situation is happening that you pass your ticket inside. So we misuse AI in different ways. That I always have this funny joke that nobody really thinks that there is artificial intelligence in their washing machine, but the moment that the red light would changes its timer from 5 seconds to 4 seconds, they say that that is artificial intelligence for a smart city. That is also like, is there an AI level that we can basically say like AI level 1 and AI level 4, that we can try to use these terminologies a bit better maybe? Or maybe there should be some?
Yeah, in when it comes self-driving cars, they have a pretty good scale for that, 1 to 5. What I know, nothing for AI in general, but the terms we use, we are narrow AI, so that's something that are set to solve a task in a narrow specific field. And then we're talking about AGI, that is artificial general intelligence. However, to reach this level, we kind of need to map all the narrow areas first. So it's
of course,
I would say it's pretty far away, but something that is quite extraordinary that also was released recently is the GPT-3 from OpenAI. And it's not on like it's only processing text in various ways. And it stands for generative pre-trained transform auto aggressive language model. But
very easy.
But people are doing amazing things with this one, and they are building it very fast. So just a few examples I have seen is you just write with text like do buttons in all the rainbow colors, or do build a function that can calculate this, and 2 gray buttons, one with $3, one with $7, and it just creates the base code. It really amazing. And I've seen the same. They connected it to designer tools like Sketch or Figma. You describe the layout in words just, and it creates it. This is possible because both code, like in the button example or the functions, brought out React code, but that's also text. It's also natural language.
Exactly.
The same in this design tools. It's also a text. It's also a code. So a lot of examples of that. I also heard the other day, it was #1 post on Hacker News. I don't remember the subject, but I think it's easy to find. Just Google GPT-3 Hacker News or something. But it was this long text about, I don't know if it was like work-life balance or burnout or something. Got voted up to #1 post there, but it was only one person who actually stated that I believe this is made by GPT-3. Nobody else did notice it. And basically what the author did was just writing the title. and the
Wow.
system wrote the rest of the text. So yeah, that's pretty crazy.
I mean, one thing is also is kind of crazy is that I think we're almost into 4 years of GPT-3, and now I hear even about GPT-4. And
I think GPT-3 was released not so long ago. They had a GPT
2017, I think, if I'm not making a mistake. But you know better.
Yeah, it would be bad if I'm wrong, but
because it was being trained, right? So then it was GPT-2.
no, it was released. They announced it June 2020.
Okay, so you're right. GPT was in 2017 and GPT-2 was 2020. You're right, and I'm right.
Yeah,
Definitely.
but it's with this GPT-3. I think it have okay. Okay, I don't have it here. I think it have 700 billion or 170 billion parameters that it uses. But yeah,
I think the translation of that is that this is crazy smart.
yeah, and yeah, I posted if somebody want to see some examples, you can check my Twitter or something. I'm trying to repost the things that I find fascinating. But what OpenAI did with that is that they are releasing it as an API, so they are not open sourcing it. GPT-2, it was open source, but this one is not. So I think it's pretty strategical from Microsoft to heavily invest in OpenAI. I don't know if it's good for innovation, but for sure the future are a lot in actually controlling and owning the systems and just allow API access to it.
So what do you think also is the future? Because we have two ideas. One is to basically try to generate better and better technologies. And the other is that we can basically be a kind of a cyber. And especially looking at the Neuralink and Elon Musk's approach in that project, which one do you think is going to start catching up first?
What was the first one?
That you're going to basically have I'm going to clarify that because we will basically say software and hardware, and people that are a bit more into AI, they also call them wetware, and that's basically who we are. So are we going to just somehow basically have faster hardwares and technologically make them faster, or we're just going to make ourselves into a cyborg, and then we're just going to have a wetware that is going to be just more enhanced?
Yeah, so what I believe is that considering what I just told about GPT-3 and what it's capable of, and also because as an example, we just look a year back, then maybe it was something that was like revolutionary, like wow factor coming, say, every 3 months, and then we were down like in 1 month, and now we see almost every week things happening. So we are really entering an era of hyper innovation within AI. And for sure, a lot of jobs that are today done by people will like jobs will not disappear because we as a humanity we like to build. We like to build something.
Of course.
We can build faster and more, we will do that. So it will simply become the tools. But where I see the absolutely greatest impact initially is in systems that are helping human teams. So maybe instead of having 10 developers, we can have 5 because a lot of base work can be done by these systems. And then, of course, robotics is a really strong segment. And currently we can see so Tesla and so they are, all of them are taking on these extremely hard tasks, self-driving cars, like insanely hard.
They even made their own GPU.
Yeah, exactly. They did. Yeah, because they are using, or the plan was at least to use a lot of deep learning and neural networks in it. It turned out to be a bit trickier, but they are getting really, really far with that. When it comes to wetware or human integration, I would say initially it's mostly around, you know, people that have certain disabilities or something, so where it can be helpful that way. Maybe like some robotic arm or help with vision and stuff like that. But we also need to remember that the human body is extremely complex, and we have so little knowledge actually how the brain works, and that's fascinating. Like the more I learn about AI and computers, the more I understand like how complex like we are and everything around, and how the computer not really come close to that. We are like light year.
Yeah, you're right. But if you take a look at the computer room in NASA, the computer room in NASA was designed for a few hundred people with pen and paper just to calculate.
Yeah.
And then the computer room was basically redesigned with a massive machine that could count faster than people. And everybody said, yeah, maybe it's gonna do that, but it's never gonna do the other stuff. Then there were people that were doing something in the financial sector. You said that what I'm doing is not replicable. It's unique to me. And then 1 year, 2 years later, there was a processing automation that basically would just say, in one click, I will go through all of the legal, frameworks that was happening in 60 different countries, and I will find one precedent, and then based on that, this paralegal robot or AI, whatever we want to call it, but basically just react better than any lawyer available with a fraction of the cost.
Yep.
I mean, considering not the cost of the first. So this is always bothers me, that we always live in a bubble of the current situation. And the moment that we feel that, okay, so this glass ceiling is broken, then we just see, okay, so where is the second thing that AI is changing?
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you this part. So I was listening to Elon Musk talking about the fact that he thinks that by the development of Neuralink, he is going to make language extinct, meaning that the next time me and you want to talk to each other, my Neuralink is going to connect to Neuralink to you, and then you understand me.
Yeah.
Where do you think that is going to bring us?
Yeah, I mean, been a fan of Elon Musk since I don't know when, but I don't agree on all the things he's saying about AI. He lives there. He, in general, he is quite how to say, like, yeah, we will have this robot taxis or self-driving cars in like 1 year, but that was 3 years ago. He's a bit over optimistic, but what he's saying is completely right in some ways, because the problem today and the bottleneck in information is like we have our screen, and we kind of need to write it in there, or we need to possibly, but then we need to figure out how to inject that information in the right place in the brain. And I don't know how easy it is. I guess first we need to kind of solve maybe Alzheimer's and similar diseases, of course, before we get there. So yeah, maybe in the future, but I mean, today we are also using many other ways of communicating than voice, different digital media. So yeah, I guess it will keep evolving there. But I'm very sure that augmented reality and those technologies will have a great impact. And there we are basically just looking at a hardware barrier at the moment. It's kind of the hardware holding it back. But we can see that it seems like Apple are going to release some more glasses, and multiple other players in the segment also. And with 5G and so coming now, we can allow a lot of that computing to happen on remote servers, which will allow us to actually have less demand on the hardware. We don't need to do all the calculations on the edge, so to say.
Another person is for me, it's almost as interesting as Elon, is Ray Kurzweil. And I mean, also the fact that he also made the Singularity University make it a person that really shows that he is really helping us to go to the singularity. And he is also one of those guys that most of his predictions are very much, like to the spot correct. And to my knowledge, he said that by 2029, we're just going to basically pass the Turing test. And by 2045, we're just going to reach singularity. So, I mean, especially talking about, like the different technologies regarding, like the improvement of AI. How do you see it, especially because you organize hackathons and you're going global? So hopefully you will have a proper understanding of where the AI is going. Do you really feel, for example, like when we say 2029, in like less than 10 years, we're just going to have a machine that would pass the Turing test?
Yeah, probably. Like if we look at factor statistics, it looks like this: that since 2012, the computing power behind AI or machine learning applications have been doubling every third month. So basically, we started out with being able to push 1 teraflop after 3 months, 2, and so on. So it's kind of outspinning Moore's law, so to say. So what is interesting here is that we are looking at the doubling of computing power behind it every third month. At the same time, if we would perform the same task 2012 and we perform it today, it requires 44 times less computing power. To that, we can also add that we have algorithmic improvements on about, I would say, maybe 70% per year. So combining all that, plus we're getting a lot more people coming into the space now, plus it's becoming more user-friendly. I believe we are really entering a really interesting time and really needed. Like we have a lot of big problems we need to solve, and we need to encourage people to go and create this type of companies. And it's also a time again when somebody home in their garage actually could build the next big thing. So
of course. I mean, as I mentioned it from the beginning, you're a very interesting guy with a lot of history of development and computer, and at the same time, AI is a fascinating story. I literally try to work with it for, I think, at least 10 years right now. So I also, like have a lot of questions from you. I really think that also one thing that we definitely can talk even much longer than, and also Lex Fridman, because we both know him, and he also has a really interesting deep learning class on MIT that I totally recommend. Also, he has a very good podcast that talks with a lot of very interesting guys, because his topic is so deep. And I mean, you're doing in this kind of stuff, so it has a lot to basically start. So I was just wondering that basically, if you can just try to have like how people are just going to go through the DLD, and DLL, sorry, and at the same time, like how they can basically reach you if they want to learn more about machine learning and AI, that would be great.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk with anyone that are interested in it. Of course, I can be reached on LinkedIn and other various medias. I invite anyone that are interested to come to Deep Learning Labs. We before the COVID, we were doing quite much reinforcement learning. You get you learn robots to run, or they learn by themselves. Now we're twisting it a bit. So last time we had it, it was more okay. Use this new YOLO V5 object detection algorithm, and in a group you try to get it to work, and then come up with a concept around this. So we actually got over these 6 hours to create like really cool ideas, and I would really love to see, because important when making AI is domain knowledge. So
of course,
even if you know how to build it, doesn't mean you can build something, because first you need an understanding of in what area. You need to know the area where it will operate.
Yeah, and definitely. Yeah, look, thank you very much for your time. To be honest with you, we had a very interesting topic of She Connects, and I was just joking with Eva that between He Connects and She Connects, there is AI Connects. So that's why this topic was also very much related. I make sure that if anybody really needs to find you, we will make sure that we will share all of the channels with everyone. And I really hope that we're going to just have another chat very quickly with each other just to dig everything there. But more than that, I just wanted to say thank you for your time. And I'm really looking forward to, especially after the COVID is going to be over and all the craziness, we're going to see each other more often and then explore more of these things. So